All right, I got a confession to make. I really wasn't wanting a Stolfo story. Just didn't care. And they gave it to me, and I'm like, okay, it's fine. I understand Astolfo now. Of everything that's happening right now, and so much stuff that I want to really get into, Astolfo's the last one that I want. Again, it's fine, but bad timing. I don't know. I kind of just wish they'll just keep it for some other arc. Obviously Astolfo's going to be important later. Let's just do that later. But again, it's fine. I really wasn't sure if they were trying to reference anything in that particular backstory. Obviously, it gets into his family, the significance of his family bloodline to take out vampires. At some point, having this vampire show up injured, he's really kind-hearted, so he decides to help the vampire. They become friends, and then eventually the guy basically brings in a bunch of vampires and they kill everybody. And I would assume this is probably in that time frame of the war that was happening, and so both sides are kind of at each other's throats. Get it? That's funny. So they end up killing everybody. But they never, I don't recall them ever mentioning his name. So it's like, I'm assuming this kid's going to be important somehow later on, but right now we're not really revealing what his name is or anything. Obviously, the guy loved calling him Astolfo, and that eventually sets off him when he's fighting Noah later, but kind of sucks. I did know that they noted one other name, and that was this vampire's sister. And this is one of those things, was it part of the deception? Because obviously he was there injured. He's crying about mother, father, and his sister Emma, or somebody he knows it's Emma. I don't know if it inquired it was his sister. And I don't recall us ever having an Emma mentioned throughout the series so far. Well, he does indicate that the Chasseur paladins specifically killed his family, and so he wanted to know, what does it feel like now that they can't call your name anymore? But I'll call your name. That was the indication that, this guy's gonna come back later on. We're probably going to get like an evil group of vampires. I mean, granted, we're not saying Ruthven and his team's not, pure blood or anything, but there's going to be a bad group of vampires they're going to run into eventually. And that guy's probably going to be leading it. So the threats kind of just leave there for now, I guess. But yeah, that's his driving force. That's why he hates vampires. And so it makes sense again. It's a terrible time that was happening in the past, and it's feeling current time. As for the rest of the episode, yes, we open up with them continuing this fight. Vanitas managed to snap Jean out of her little trance and wanting to kill Chloe, which he's obviously like, you don't want to do that, obviously. Again, technically, this was a scene that was in the previous episode, really kind of hinting on the idea that, were you actually told you have to kill Chloe, though? Well, it's too late. I have to do it anyway. And he's like, she hasn't killed anybody. Well, she's a curse bearer, but you don't really want to do that, do you? I think at this point, I know that people have said that the manga is a lot more heavy on the, the BL yaoi type thing, but at this point, I'm really heavily shipping Jean and Vanitas. Like, their relationship started out as kind of like him forcing himself on her and kind of using her. But over time, it's like, you just can't really deny the two of them. You just really can't. And Vanitas here again, really pushing on her. I told you, I'm not going anywhere. I told you I would kill you if you ever went crazy. And I love you. And then Noe can stick with Dom. I love Dom, so that works for me too. But yeah, Vanitas' big plan is to use this machine that Chloe used on Nania to basically make Chloe become solidified once again, and then they can stop her. And so he's trying to use that. It uses this astromite. Yeah, astromite. And the astromite apparently he recalls in memory within Vanitas where he's walking with two people. And one I'm assuming is Vanitas, the one that originally saved him, and the other one being some random lady in this big robe that has a staff. Now, the big confusion that obviously comes here, since we really have gotten very little into Vanitas' history, is this before or after he was a test subject? This could have technically been before he was a test subject, or it could have been after he was saved and this was Vanitas with him with some other lady. Now, who that lady is, at this point, I don't think we know at all, but it definitely creates more questions than answers, and I think at this point, we really need to get into Vanitas' history. Obviously, Vanitas' past is like this ongoing thread throughout the entire series that's going to probably span out for a long time. It seems to be the core of the story in the end. But yeah, he's asking his father what the stone is, or if it's this astromite, and the lady's like, no, it's this. It is, but it's like the purest form of it. And this is weird because I thought at this point it was indicating that even though Chloe said she tossed the book after she couldn't get the stone out, that she actually used it to fuel the machine. Like, oh, finally, I got the stone, I can now do this. But no, they end up showing the book later, and I think it had the stone in it. But the weird thing that this whole situation breeds is not him going, oh, the book's obviously in here. It's him going, okay, I'm going to use this in my arm, and his arm starts glowing. So it kind of indicates that Vanitas might be made of this stone. And the stone might be very powerful. And so it goes back to, like, obviously, I think last week, Genghis specifically, one of our community members was asking about why Vanitas is so strong. And I was like, yeah, it gets into that whole aspect of him being a test subject that obviously made him more powerful. He might end up being a vampire in the end, but right now we're pretty much assuming he's human. But this could be indicating what gives him his strength. Why does he fall from great heights and stuff and not die? He's obviously not human. Well, he's a test subject. Well, what's the test subject mean? Possibly this astromite. He might have astromite all in his body, or at least in his arm. Yeah, the astromite is still on the book, so that indicates that, yeah, it's both on the book and possibly in his body. I'm curious if it's the same stone that they put on the book is on this in his body. Maybe that's what allows him to actually use the book, unlike other people. So it really hits heavy on this whole vampire of the blue moon thing, is this idea of the stone, the blood maybe being the blue. So we're throwing a bunch of weird symbolisms in there. But yeah, I forgot the lady did call it specifically blue tear stone or divine tear stone, whatever that's going to mean later on. But yeah, that's when we get into the final later parts where Vanitas is firing up this machine. They find his book and throw it to him. And also on the side, Noe is trying to get Jean-Jacques to help him convince Chloe to stop. Like, we need to call out to her. And right when he does that, yeah, that's when Stolfo wakes up from his little back history telling and slashes, or gets all juiced up and then slashes Jean-Jacques. But Jean-Jacques seemingly survives. Noe fights Stolfo, realizes that he's gotten stronger, again calls out his name and gets more angry. And then, yeah, Jean-Jacques climbs very slowly all the way up to where Chloe is, becoming no longer spectral or whatever, and starts recalling essentially what her whole plan was. As we finally got the reveal in this episode what Vanitas seen 2 episodes ago when Chloe was launching up the machine. He said, I knew that face. She's wanting to give up. This is her last stand. She's going to finish herself. This isn't going to end well, and we'll be trapped here. And this is something that Jean-Jacques is starting to realize as he's remembering, oh yeah, by the way, she did say when I first found her next to Noe that, oh, you want to keep this person or help this boy? Well, that's great, because you're going to need a friend. And oh yeah, by the way, there's all these things, these mechanical things that she was making that were going to finish her off. Like, this was her plan. She wanted to take out Nania, get her revenge for what happened to Jean-Jacques, and just end it. And of course, he's upset about that, and I'm upset about that. Both Jean-Jacques and myself were very upset about this concept because I don't want anything to happen to Chloe. I really hope Chloe becomes a regular part of the story going forward. Probably not. They'll probably end up leaving her and she'll pop up later on. But yeah, he goes to her and basically says what we all kind of expected him to say. I'd rather die too, basically. If you leave, that will be hell. I will just fall into a pit of hell. I cannot be without you. Please don't leave me. And yeah, that's when they get the book. And he's going to cure her curse bearerness if he pulls it off, because something's probably going to get in the way. Now, what could get possibly in the way at this point? Obviously, Stolfo might realize that something's happening and rush in there to stop it from happening, which I don't know why he would. At the same time, we still do have Roland and his friend are down there, and they're realizing that we don't have much time left. We need to put an end to this, and that could be him realizing Roland is trying to stall him and go, we can't stall anymore. Whatever you're doing, we can't do it no more. Let's go up there and stop this. And they may get involved with the situation. But yeah, interesting though. That kind of indicates that with the 6th episode or 7th episode, it would be for part 2 or episode 819, we possibly could see a wrap up of this particular story arc. I kind of was starting to feel like we would probably wrap it up with episode 18, but it looks like we possibly could wrap it up with 19, unless they got something else up their sleeve. We've gotten into Chloe's history. We've gotten to Jean-Jacques' story. We've gotten to Stolfo's story. as much as I didn't want it. So the only thing they kind of leave here in this current cast, maybe they can get into some of the dampers, but I doubt it. But this could be the wrap-up point for this, which would be interesting. And then we can kind of start getting into maybe another storyline, which we would have another good 5 episodes to work with. I'm not sure. It could indicate that whatever happens here can lead to a battle with the Paladins, or possibly them confronting Ruthven. Because now they have the accounts of what happened to Chloe and Ruthven. They have basically the fact that Ruthven wanted this whole situation wiped off the map. The Paladins wanted everything wiped off the map. So we do have kind of that conflict that was originally created when that arc first started, which is Vanitas versus the current threat versus the Chasseurs versus the charlatans. Everybody was technically, like I said, involved with this scenario. And so technically Narnia's gone, so that's out of the picture, but everything else is still there. So I'll be interested to see how and if this story arc will kind of wrap up here. Again, we technically could have an entire episode of them trying to stop Stolfo from being Stolfo. I hate that he has that name. It's ruined the name of Stolfo fate, but yeah, that's my thoughts on episode 18 of Vanitas. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, leave a like down below, comment, let me know what you thought of the episode, subscribe if you haven't already, share this video if you can, support us on Patreon, I'll throw a tips link in the description below. We definitely appreciate everybody it does, and as always, definitely welcome you all to click the Discord link in the description below and join our Discord channel if you love anime and want to talk about it, and y'all take care.